What is happening, YouTube? Thank you guys for checking out the video and welcome back to the channel. My name is Infamous Trickster, and today we're going to be looking at my new and improved FROST Vortex build. Now, for a lot of you, you may not be aware, but they have done a huge revamp for a lot of the builds and how they work essentially. A lot of the elemental builds got a lot of love this time, and I mean, as a person that's always loved the FROST Vortex, it's even better. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the updated version of what I've put together at this point. Some of the pieces have changed, some of the gear set pieces have changed, and some of the mods that I've previously used are not being used anymore, just because of the way it works. So a lot has changed, so make sure you guys stay tuned to this video because we're going to be breaking down everything as we go along. So what we are looking at is the M416 Silent Anabasis is an assault rifle style weapon, and the features that we're looking at on here are going to be 15% chance to trigger FROST Vortex on hit. Hitting a target generates an ice crystal. Cooldown is 1.5 seconds. Now this is a little bit different from what we were previously looking at before, because it was a 15% chance to trigger a vortex, and the target needed to be in FROST Vortex for you to generate an ice crystal. Now without FROST Vortex, an ice crystal will spawn whether or not FROST Vortex is present. So ice crystals automatically shatter after 15 seconds, dealing frost elemental status damage equal to 100 psi intensity to nearby targets. Frost Vortex damage applies. Ice crystals can also shatter by shooting them, which increases the damage they deal to 350 psi intensity and reduced effect towards players. Frost elemental damage plus 30% plus an additional 8% for every ice crystal shattered for up to 15 seconds. This stacks up to 3 times. So that's essentially what we're looking at for the weapon. There has been a bit of tweaking in terms of how essentially the weapon works. It's a lot better than it used to be, 100%, just because of the fact that it was such a low chance to trigger an ice crystal right off the bat, and it was reliant on the FROST Vortex. So for a lot of you guys that remember my previous build that I put out, I had a way to guarantee FROST Vortexes to spawn with the crafted frost grenades. So I would throw the frost grenade at the target, it would spawn a FROST Vortex, and then as soon as I shoot it, it gets a spawned crystal. We don't have to worry about the FROST Vortex grenades anymore. I mean, they're still good. I still use them because, I mean, it's AoE damage and why not? But what we're looking at now is no longer a need to spawn the FROST Vortex for the crystals to spawn. So that's what we're looking at. This is the main weapon of this build, and we're going to look at the calibration. So the preferred calibration style is the precision style. So we're looking at attack plus 20, range plus 40, and the fire rate minus 10. The fire rate is mainly because of the fact that there is a cooldown on the ice crystals spawning essentially. So you want to try to lower your rate as much as possible, because the more that you get in the magazine, the better chances of you spawning a ice crystal. Obviously we want to go with elemental damage for the 2 stats under the precision style. Now your off weapon, or your main weapon, however you want to call it, your second weapon that you're looking at, you want to go with something that's going to essentially increase vulnerability. Now I'm only using the wildfire. You can go with the bingo, you can go with the crossbow, whatever. I have the wildfire pistol. Just to give you guys an idea of what we're looking at, so the wildfire has a 6% chance to trigger bullseye when hitting a target. There is a 80% chance to spread the bullseye to 1 enemy within 15-meter area. If there are no enemies within the area, weapon damage is increased by 25% for 10 seconds. When hitting a weak spot of marked targets, attack plus 3 for 10 seconds, up to 3 stacks. So this is more or less a primer. You're going to be making sure that you get bullseye activated on the mob or the boss or whoever you're attacking, just to get that additional damage out from when you do pull out the Silent Anabasis. Your sidearm, you can use whatever. I'm on the winter server right now, so I am using a torch, just because you never know. There's always those one opportunities where a Chaos Weaver spawns out of nowhere. the temperatures drop to minus 45, minus 50, and it's not a good time. So just always having the torch is nice. Now, what I want to mention is specifically for the melee. So this is something that's changed from the previous build. The Silent Anabasis used to have the mod where it would give you heals. Once the Frost Vortex despawns, it restores part of your health. What I've done now is I've actually changed it so that happens on the melee weapon. Frosty Blessing, I believe it's called, is on my melee weapon. So what I do is I'll shoot. Let's just say I need some heals. I'm getting a bit low on health. I will spawn a Frost Vortex somewhere, whether that's from a grenade or firing the Silent Anabasis, and pull out my melee weapon right away. And pretty much what that's going to do is once the Frost Vortex despawns, it gives me that health back. You can just keep yourself topped up that way. We're going to go ahead and get into the mods and all of that once we're finished breaking down the basics of the build first of all. As you can see here, we are running a little bit of a different style here. I was using the snow camel gloves in my previous build. I am no longer using them at this point. It's not as much damage as what it contributes to the Frost Tactical Vest, but we're going to go ahead and break that down now. So we are using 1 piece of the Lone Wolf, 4 pieces of the Shelters, and our key armor we're looking at is the Frost Tactical Vest. So we're going to go ahead and look at what each of these does. So Lone Wolf helmet, it's giving us an additional 10% magazine bonus. So it's just loading more bullets into our magazine. 4-piece Shelter. The first piece doesn't really give that much of a benefit really. It's more of just a defensive. What we're really looking at is the 2-piece, the 3-piece, and the 4-piece bonuses. The 2-piece, we're looking at a base damage of 8% elemental damage. So that's 8% frost increase. Now looking at the 3-piece, each weapon hit grants 1 stack of Deviant energy. Every stack of Deviant energy grants 1% elemental damage. Effect can stack up to 20 times. Reloading removes half of the total stacks. What we're looking at is for the 3-piece, a lot of people kind of get it confused because of the wording. So Deviant energy is not talking about your Deviant that you have, that you're currently using. Deviant energy is just the perk that's you're gaining from the 3-piece. That's all that's referring to. Deviant energy is going to be specifically just giving you a total of 20 stacks. Now the 4-piece increases the max Deviant energy stack by 10, grants 2 additional stacks when hitting a weak spot. So what we're looking at is we're gaining the same bonus from the 3-piece, increasing it by 10. So we're getting a total of 30 Deviant energy stack, giving us a total of 30% damage bonus to our elemental damage. So that's essentially why we're using the 4-piece, because it's giving us that much more. Now we're going to touch on the 3-piece wording where it talks about reloading removes half of the total stacks. We'll get into that afterwards. Again, I'm using the mask, gloves, boots, and pants for Shelterers. And the Frost Tactical Vest, we're going to look at this one here. So Frost Vortex generates ice spikes that deal frost damage plus 100% psi intensity. So already as it is, the whole build is based around a AoE style of damage. So we're just adding on to it at this point, using these ice spikes. So the ice spikes, they don't contribute to the ice crystals that spawn from the Silent Anabasis. They spawn specifically off of Frost Vortex. So as long as Frost Vortex is spawning, you're getting ice spikes. So that's a nice little damage bonus for this build. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start breaking down the mods that we're looking at for each of these pieces that we've got here. So we'll start off with the Silent Anabasis. So for the Silent Anabasis, we are currently using the the Vortex Multiplier, Frost Vortex Suffix. Max number of Frost Vortexes +1, and we're getting an additional Frost Vortex damage plus 10%. Obviously the ones that are on here are quite literally perfect for this build. We're looking at Frost damage, damage to Great Ones, Frost Vortex duration, and the Frost damage. So all of those are going to be increasing our damage regardless. So that's the one that we're looking at on here now. For my accessories, I'm currently using the hammer compensator for the muzzle, the compact reflex sight for the optic, elite vertical grip for the tactics, and the light rifle magazine for the magazine. For the DE wildfire, we're looking at a recovery mark, the bullseye suffix. When defeating marked enemies, recover 15% HP and 25% stamina. Looking at the accessories, we are currently using a multi-brake for the muzzle. We're using a compact reflex sight for the optic. We're using a compact flashlight for the tactics and an amended pistol magazine for the magazine. So what we're looking at now, we're going to go ahead and look at the armor mods. So for the first piece, we're looking at the deviation expert with the talent suffix. So we're getting a little bit of less range, fire rate plus 10%, and status damage plus 20%. Elemental damage is what we're essentially looking at for all of our suffixes. That's going to be the talent suffix. So it's getting elemental damage plus status damage. So those are our two main attributes that we're looking for this build. Over to this mask. Frost Vortex final damage plus 15%. Each additional enemy within the Frost Vortex adds plus 15% up to 45. So it stacks up to 3 times. Quick comeback talents. Suffix. When using healing shot, movement speed plus 20% for 2 seconds and refills magazine from the inventory to 100%. The next piece that we are looking at is the reload rampage. After killing an enemy, refill 2 bullets from the reserves. No more than 50% of the magazine capacity, weapon damage, and status damage plus 10% until next reload. So this one is nice to help keep our magazine topped up. For the gloves, we are looking at the status enhancement with the talent suffix. This one's just giving us a straight status damage plus 20%, which is always nice. And the boots, we're going with the Ruthless Reaper talent suffix. After getting 2 kills, refill 100% of your magazine from your reserves. So this one here, we are looking at essentially replacing it. I haven't found I've been looking for an improved version of this with the talent suffix on it. Taking no damage grants 4 seconds grants 20% melee weapon and status damage for 30 seconds. So this one is extremely good to have. Now, the reason why this one is I don't have this one, I haven't had a replacement yet. This is what I was using for the previous build, and I haven't had a chance to get a new and improved version of this yet. What we're trying to do with the build is we're trying to not reload as much as possible. Essentially what that does is it's going to keep our damage numbers high, because what's happening is as soon as we do hit the reload button, we're halving our stacks of damage stacks. So our shelter 3-piece is giving us up to 20% increase elemental damage, but what happens is as soon as we reload, we're getting chopped down to half, and that's only giving us 10%. With the 4-piece, obviously we're getting another 10 stacks, which is another 10%, maxing out at 30%, and then what happens is that's getting halved by 15 once we reload. So we're trying not to reload as much as possible because it's going to be reducing our numbers in terms of damage. Now, in regards to deviants, we are using a different one than we were in the previous build. This time around, we are going to be using the Snow Sprite as opposed to the Jellyfish. Generates ice crystals near the target every 3 seconds. Ice crystals shatter when shot, dealing 87.5 frost damage to nearby targets and causing them to take 42% additional frost damage. So this one is going to be giving us those ice crystals that we're already looking for when they spawn. Because of the last point on the silent Anabasis, where it refers to shattering ice crystals gives an increase in damage, we're going to be looking for the crystals whenever they're available, because a lot of our damage is coming specifically from manually shooting those. We don't really want to let them shatter by themselves because they're not doing as much damage as they potentially could be doing. The next part I wanted to look at, we are going to be talking about the Cradle. So the Cradle that I went with, we are using the anti-regen, anti-void, status enhancement, tactical combo, frost sense, lone walker, sustained suppression, and the deviation master. When we're looking at food buffs, food and drink buffs, the ones that we're going to be looking at are going to be, for the food, we're looking at the canned minty meat. So that's going to be giving us a 15% frost damage increase. And for the drink that we're going to be looking at is the whimsical drink. So this is going to be giving us a 25% status damage bonus. And for those of you that didn't know, food and drink buffs are different. So you can stack a food buff with a drink buff and they won't overlap. They won't cancel each other out. You can have both of them on you at the same time. So that is going to be it for today's video, guys. Thank you guys so much for checking it out and sticking through it to the end. I hope you guys enjoyed the build as much as I've been enjoying the build, because man, I've been having a blast. Let me know in the comments section below what builds you guys want to see coming from this channel as well. I usually try my best to post at least one video per week. And if you did enjoy the video, just make sure you're liking, commenting, and subscribing to the channel so that you're not missing any future content that I post. As a small creator, it really does help boost the channel. So that is going to be it. Thank you guys so much again, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Infamous Trickster, signing out.